You have to watch this most amazing video of a true righteous Gentile. What is a righteous Gentile? A righteous Gentile is the same thing in many respects as a righteous Jew, in that a righteous Jew lives righteously to their Jewishness, and a righteous Gentile lives righteously towards their purpose as a Gentile in this world. And here is a beautiful example. You may know who this is. Pierre Poilievre, who is the head of the Conservative Party in Canada, who speaks so magnificently and has such clarity of mind and has such a strong relationship with the Jewish people. And here we are just a couple of days before the holiday of Sukkot. And something fascinating that we would do when we had our temple, which God willing we will very soon, once again, when we brought sacrifices every single day in the temple. The Torah, God commands us to bring 13 bulls sacrifices on the first day of Sukkot. It's a 7-day holiday, 12 on the second day, 11 on the third day, and this continues until you have 7 on the 7th day. And if you add up 13 plus 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, you will discover that equals 70. Corresponding to the 70 nations of the world. That's right. The Jewish people brought sacrifices on behalf of every nation of the world. We don't believe, as most other religions do, that a Gentile needs to convert to Judaism. In fact, we don't even encourage it. We only encourage that a Gentile be a righteous Gentile, as we encourage that a Jew be a righteous Jew. That is our mandate in this world. And we actually bring sacrifices, praying for them on their behalf, for their peace, and that they be successful, that they diminish their agenda-driven lives, just as we need to diminish our agenda-driven lives and be more purpose-oriented, because that's what makes us righteous. You have to watch this clip with me of listening to Pierre speaking to, it seems like, a Jewish assembly. And first of all, his scholarship is just astounding. For a Gentile, it's really amazing to hear. And his clarity of mind in what is right and what is wrong. Here, let's watch this together, everyone.
He invited me for a Shabbat because I wanted a real Shabbat experience. So I went to Jerusalem, to the wall. I witnessed the prayers as the sun was going down. And just before it did, I got on a bus, and the bus driver took one look at me. And he said, "You don't belong in Beitar." He didn't believe I had any good reason to be there. So I said, "I'm staying with this guy, Ephraim Shore." He said, "How do I know that?" I said, "Well, I'll call him on my cell phone." I called him and handed him the bus driver the phone. And he cross-examined Ephraim Shore to make sure that I did not have evil designs. And then they passed the phone around to other people. And they said, yeah, Ephraim Shore, he's legit. Let's let the kid go to Beitar. So when I got there, I experienced the most beautiful Shabbat ever. Here he was with his half-dozen kids and his beautiful wife sitting around the Shabbat table, candle lit. Then, of course, they opened, I think it was the Mishnah, and they started debating points in the Mishnah, squabbling over this comma and that detail. And I thought, this is fantastic. I feel like I'm in the House of Commons. And as the night went on, they sang these beautiful Hebrew songs. And what struck me is that more than 2,000 years ago, on the same land, the same people were singing the same songs. That is the truth. The Jewish people are the only people I know of who, in the same language, worship the same faith on the same land, in the same country, as they did 3,000 years ago. That is a true indigenous people. Which gives inspiration when you think about all the hardship that it took to stay true to what they had accepted and affirmed at Purim, to the law that Moses had brought down from the mountaintop as he led his people through the desert, out of bondage, and to the promised land, a land to which he would not arrive himself, but which he would bequeath to a generation of Jews who would carry on that tradition. Now, I made the mistake the next day of going to the local park and scribbling in my notepad a journal of everything I had experienced, not while I was wearing a kippah, and everyone was looking at me thinking, gee, this guy must have missed that the rule. You're not supposed to pick up a pencil on Shabbat. But I was a slow learner. Nevertheless, the people were very kind to me. My time traveling around Israel was a beautiful adventure. I was welcomed by the Jewish people. There was hitchhiking then. Did you know that? They still have, I don't think they do that now. But I was hitchhiking around the Holy Land, and young Jewish people would pick me up on the highway and drive me along to my next destination. And I was in many places where goys never go. I was in Beersheba, I was in En Gedi, I stayed in a little kibbutz right next to the Dead Sea. We went to Metula, where there's the only hockey rink, a Canadian-sponsored hockey rink. Incredible. We went to the Golan Heights. We stood up there, and there's the beautiful wineries. We literally witnessed with our own eyes Hezbollah lobbing missiles into northern Israel. And the courageous IDF forces flying back into South Lebanon to retaliate against the attack. This happened before our eyes. And I thought, the next day, we're going to have these newspapers filled. My family back home are going to be terrified reading about all this. Of course, none of it was even reported. It just happened, and it was such a regular happenstance that it wasn't even reported on. An unprovoked, yet another unprovoked rocket attack on the northern territory of a sovereign Israel. And as we traveled along, though, I realized that this was the most scientifically, democratically, and politically advanced country in the world. Incredible. Think of what they built. There are more Israeli companies on the high-tech NASDAQ exchange than there are companies from all of the continent of Europe, which is literally 100 times bigger than Israel. The medical technologies, the softwares, the artificial intelligence that Israelis have invented. I mean, there's a little bit more artificial intelligence in the Canadian government, but it's a different type. I came home from that trip, though, determined to stand with my friends in Israel, and not long after that, I joined with B'nai B'rith and then the Canada-Israel Committee, now CIJA, and we launched a full-scale campaign to criminalize Hezbollah, which up until that time was completely legal in Canada.
What a magnificent man Pierre is. Wow, Pierre, we applaud you. Thank you for being a friend of the Jewish people in a world where there's so much hostility and so much confusion, where you keep your head straight and you speak openly and truthfully.